members only. I'm going to read off your names. And if you are a voting member and I did not call your name, please let me know just so I know that you are here. Is that I'm going to just start reading names, okay? So I have myself, we have Patsy, we have Patty, Ken, Richard, Daryl, Sam, Eric, Diane, and Jeff. Did I miss anyone? I'll take that as a no. Perfect. So we definitely have quorum. We're just going to go ahead and get started. It is 12:36. This is our first electronic Taac meeting that I've ever been at. I've been doing this for about 5.5 years now. What I would like to do, just a couple. And again, please mute your lines if you can when you are not talking.
Hello. Oh, hi. I have to get back to you. I'm on a conference call. I'll call you back.
Dan, you're not muted.
Oh my God, I thought I was. See, I'm with Ken.
David, you can click on your side. You can mute everybody since you're the host, or Allison, whoever. Allison's the host. She can mute everyone.
This is John by mute. By phone. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, I hear you, John. I got you down as attending the meeting.
Okay, I'll put my mute on.
Perfect. I was just getting started and starting just to lay some ground rules. So before anybody speaks, please say their names. Obviously, you want to keep yourself muted until it's time to speak. These meetings can be more cumbersome. I think we'll get through it just fine. But yeah, so please say who you are before you speak, and then go ahead and speak. What we will be doing for voting is a roll call vote in which I will call a member's name, and then you vote yes or no on whatever it is that we're voting on. And again, Carrie, I have you as well. Welcome. Again, if you're a member and I did not call your name, please speak up and let me know that you're on the call, because some people might join as we go here. But again, any muting of lines would be fantastic unless you are talking. We got quite a number of folks on this call, so that's a lot of different noise. Thank you all for jumping in. I think I have 10 of us. I'm going to read through the list once again. If you don't hear your name called and you are a voting member of Taac, please let me know. I have Carrie, Sheldon, I have John, Jeff, Diane, Eric, Sam, Daryl, Richard, Ken, and Patsy. Are there any voting members whose name I did not call?
Patty Thorson.
Patty, got you? Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, Patty and Patsy. I probably should have separated where I wrote your names on my list, but I apologize. Alrighty. So we are holding this meeting the what month is it? June meeting of the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee electronically. State law does allow us to do this in times of emergency or pandemic. I'm happy to share state statutes with you all if you want to know, but we will be hopefully conducting these meetings electronically for not too long, because I wish this didn't go on forever. But if we have to, we will keep on doing this. We will do roll call vote. I'm just going to say this one more time. So whenever it's time to vote on something, I'm going to read through again, please mute your lines. I'm getting some background noise here.
I don't know if I'm doing this right.
So we have fantastic. That is.
Need a mic.
So David, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You might instruct people on how to mute themselves because it's not logical the way that the wording is on the screen. So
Okay.
they may think they're muted, but they're not.
Thank you, Ken. So if you are using a computer and you're in through the WebEx internet side of things, there is towards the bottom of the screen, there's a little microphone looking thing with a line going through it. And it will say mute or unmute. Apparently the labels on that button are not too logical, but you'll want that to be muted. It's a beeping sound, a single beeping sound. It makes a double beeping sound. So if you click that button and it makes a single beeping sound, that means you are muted. If you are just calling in on a landline, you can press *6 and that will mute you as well. If you're on a cell phone, I know iPhones just have a mute option on them. You can do that as well. And pull your mic up. And if you want to save bandwidth, Carrie, you can turn off your video. That's up to you. The rest of us have turned off our video, and it makes things move a little faster. So you're more than welcome, Carrie, if you want to turn off your video. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. We have a quorum. I think one person joined us. Well, hold on. Someone just joined us. If you just joined us, can you please say your name?
Heidi?
Heidi, thank you.
Okay, it works. Thank God.
All right, so we have quorum. Again, thank you all for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. I would like to go through the approval of the agenda and minutes. And I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Jeff Danes, motion to approve the agenda.
Sam Jasmine, second.
Awesome. So I'm going to read through people's names. I'm going to read through people's names so I know we're here. Just say yes or no. I know this is a little more cumbersome than normal, but we have to do it this way to make sure that everything is done properly. So, Patsy.
Who seconded the motion?
Yes.
Sam did.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Patty.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Daryl.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
And Heidi. And I vote aye as well. We'll wait for Heidi's yes. I think when she gets her phone unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So
Okay.
same thing for the minutes. Does anybody have any?
Point of clarification, Chair.
Yes, sir.
What did we just do? Did we just do
Approve
a
the
roll
agenda.
call for approving the agenda?
Yes, sir.
That didn't. All you need to do is have a first and second. It doesn't need to go through a whole roll call for that. The only time you need to do a roll call on a WebEx call is if you're doing a new item are a voted item, not your agenda or your consent agendas.
All right.
Sam, Jasmine, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Sam?
don't you have to offer discussion though? Or any changes?
I usually do that. That's correct. And I did not do it this time. Did you have did you have any changes or discussion on the agenda?
No, that wasn't, no, I guess I was wondering if you don't, know who was, well, I guess you could do it how he said.
So we'll move on to the minutes. Did anybody have any comments on the minutes from March, our last full meeting of Taac?
Ken, move to pass.
Sam, second.
All right, let's go with since nobody provided a counterpoint to Daryl, let's just go with Daryl's comment here, and it's passed. I'm pretty sure Robin is on the line, so let's dive right in. Robin Kaufman wanted to introduce herself to us. I know you've been with the Met Council for a little while, and we've heard from you in the past, but by all means, please, Robin, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I have enjoyed working with the Taac over the years, and I see many familiar names and faces, so it's good to introduce myself or reintroduce myself again. My name is Robin Kaufman. As you mentioned, I have been with the council since 2001 and started over in community development, but then started working most closely with Taac during my tenure with the Central Corridor Light Rail Project. I still call it Central Corridor, but most people know it as the Green Line. I was the manager of public involvement at that time and worked closely with Ken Rogers and many others on the Community Advisory Committee, and really feel that Taac and a lot of your participation really made the project a much better project. And then I went on to working on Southwest, and now just in January, I took on a new role as the Director of Administration for Metro Transit wide. And so in that role, I'm taking on some administration functions, but I'm also now overseeing the customer relations and the outreach component. And part of my role there, part of the intent there, is to bring what we've learned from the light rail projects and our best practices and engagement, and applying that across the agency and really tying all of our outreach together, and providing that consistency of strategies. Customer relations is a new one. I've spent probably the first 2 or 3 months of my new position of kind of restructuring the customer relations component and really looking at it from kind of a data-driven perspective, because we get about 300 calls a day probably to customer relations, and it can be everything from go-to cards to complaints to reports of damage to compliments. And so one of the first things that I've been working on is taking that data, and instead of just a lot of data that comes in via emails and phone calls and logged, I've been working with some of our planning staff and mapping staff, and we now have the start of a tool that we can start mapping our complaints, and you can start drilling down on what the issues are, where they are, and really start to try to see, to use it as an analytical tool. And a way, for example, that I use this even just recently is with COVID. I'm sure many of you are aware that we've had to change our transit operations. And one of the ways that transit operations, just as far as routes and frequency, but then also some of the practices like rear door boarding. And one of the complaints we do get is about operators not allowing people that need to use the front door to use the front door. And so I used our new application that's in draft form still, but was able to use it and literally zone in on that issue and able to find the trends, like what routes are they, what stops are they, that sort of thing, and then we could get it to the direct garage, and then the garage could those supervisors could sit down with the operators of those routes and those lines and really focus on how to address that issue, and that people do need to use the front door and indicate they do, that we need to allow them to do that. So that's just a real-time example of some of the ways that we're using that new data and kind of how I'm bringing my approach to the department. I would be interested in depending on your agenda, I'd love to work with Doug and Allison and see about maybe bringing that as a demo, and we'd be happy to demo that data system and that mapping system to you if that's something that you're interested in. So with that, that's kind of a high level intro, and I'd be happy to take any questions or any questions.
This Ken. Go ahead. You call the order, but I have a question when time comes.
Go ahead, Ken.
So Robin, welcome, and I'm really happy to hear you're in this role, this leadership role. As you know, I think I go way back to when you first started, and I've always been really impressed with your ability to listen, reframe, and move forward. So congratulations, and I'm excited for you. My one suggestion is, and this may already be on your list of to-dos, but I personally have experienced time and time again an issue in which I've tried to call customer service, and because of the extremely long wait time that you're on hold with no indication of how much longer it's going to be, I end up hanging up. And so the complaints or the concerns or whatever the person is calling about does not end up getting reported. And I'm afraid that because of that time hold or that system we use that doesn't allow you to understand how long you're going to be on hold. I've been on hold for up to 30 minutes before I've hung up. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I just bring that to your attention, so that could be something that perhaps is looked at as we move forward, because I think that would be a huge advantage to our system to be able to capture really what's going on all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and if I may add a few thoughts or comments.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment, and I'll definitely check and see if that's something that our system can add. I should have mentioned too that we are changing a little bit about how we respond to customer complaints, and we're streamlining things a little bit better and giving more information. So hopefully the customer relations staff are more empowered to address issues once they get through. But in addition to that, we're also looking at revising our online comment forms to make them shorter and more user-friendly. And so I'm hoping we've got them partially drafted and hoping to get those live shortly. And we also do have an email system where people can submit comments too. So we're trying to provide some more opportunities and ways for people to comment in addition to just the phone system. So. But thank you for that comment, and I'll definitely look into it.
Sure.
This is Heidi. I've used it in COVID-19, when we had the sickness. I had to go under the bar to get to the seat, but I have a 4-arm crutch, so I look disabled. And one time I had my cart because I had to go grocery shopping. So they're treating me with respect, but we should figure out how to, if you can't bend low, to go under, because they're not willing to move the bar or anything to go through. So I didn't know I had to pay for the first time I went on. I didn't know I didn't have to pay. And then the back door was where people mostly board. I was learning as I was actually using it for the first time, because the emails I've been getting weren't doing 100%. They were doing okay and not okay in explaining how it works for the disabled.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council member, or committee member. Can I ask a few clarifying questions so I can provide some feedback? So was that, did you enter in the back door and had to crawl to go under the bar to get into the seating in the front?
No, ma'am. I ended up being in the front of the bus and I got on because I really thought I had to pay and everything. And the driver says, no, don't pay. Just go under the bar. Go, sit down. I knew nothing. So I got on and did my part. And then I learned as I took my rides in West St. Paul and in Dakota County. And also I saw something very interesting. We never had a bus that, you know, it's like two buses in one, you know, that has that that middle part, you know, kind of like a xylophone kind of thing.
They're
And
called
so that was
reticulate.
something, yeah, those were something new because West St. Paul usually gets the small buses, you know, and, you know, like a couple of different sizes. So I was learning how this all works. I was all ready to pay and I was all ready to do my part and I knew nothing.
And we are still asking that people do pay their fare, but we also recognize that sometimes, you know, especially if you're boarding in the back, that it's difficult to do so. But if you are able, we're trying to ask people to pay using like the mobile app or that.
Chair, I would like to say something. This is Heidi. I use my go-to card, which is given through the county, but now my card is dead because I've been home for so long. I have to get that reactivated. So I was going to pay by cash, not knowing that, you know, you had other ways of doing it. So I don't want to open up too many bugs where it doesn't need to be because mine's through the county. And I also was willing to do my part by paying. Now, I was told by the bus driver, one of the bus drivers, to pay down by the green line. So if I do take the green line, for sure I have to pay. It's not free, it's just the buses right now because they board from the back. And I board from the front just because I found out depends on where you park that bus. That's in the back. We need to talk about this in the future. That is a high down step. I was surprised I can get off correctly without, you know, falling off the thing. So I was able, because I did try once in the back and I didn't realize how high it was, you know. So it really gets down to where you park us and stuff. And in the Twin Cities and the suburbs, it's not always a pretty sight, you know, to use the back door.
Chair Jasmine, this question.
Go right
So
ahead.
that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Heidi.
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm curious to know, I apologize if I missed this, but how are you, or are you, I mean, I presume that you're somehow managing the numbers of people that are coming on, or are you just allowing things to be as full as they get?
Mr. Chair and committee members, this we are due to COVID, we are trying to limit the number of passengers that we have on a bus so that we are able to do spatial distancing. And so that's why you'll see more of the articulated buses, especially on some of the heavier routes. So for the small buses, we're allowing, I think it's 6 people. For the regular size buses, we're allowing 10 people. And for the larger articulated buses, we're allowing 15 people. It's generally, you know, generally a rule. Sometimes, you know, families will get on and they'll sit together, you know, so it's a little, or maybe several people will get on at once and sit together. So there might be a few extra people, but that's our goal. We are adding on, especially on some of the heavier routes, we've been adding additional buses just so that we can try and carry as many people as we can, realizing that if a bus is getting too full, we may end up not picking them up at that bus, but then if they're unable to pick someone up, they're supposed to contact the control center and make sure that more buses are coming to carry the demand.
Mr. Chair, Sam Jasmine, one more question if I can.
By all means, just take it away. And unless things, just a quick note here, unless things really start to get out of hand, which I don't think they will, just say your name and then dive right into the question. We don't have to wait for acknowledgement from the chair.
Okay. Well, my other question was just that are you instructing the drivers to at least stop and announce to people that the bus is full if they're not able to pick them up, because there may be people there who can't see or know that that's full, and they would need to know that to kind of lessen the idea that they might call in with complaints of, hey, that bus didn't stop or anything like that.
Yes, absolutely. That is the instruction that the operators have been given. And if the situation, if that's not the case, if you're experiencing that that's not the case, let us know. We really don't mind getting those calls, because those calls are what really help us to address issues and make things correct things if needed. So.
Thank you.
Chair, Jeff Danes here. My question is, on entering the bus or exiting the bus, how is that working in terms of social distancing? Or are people just congregating as they get on and then distancing when they get on the bus? I mean, I don't understand that. I've seen it kind of both ways when I've seen buses, so I'm a little confused by that.
Yeah, the goal would be for folks to socially distance as they disembark, but then get on the bus and then try to socially distance within the bus itself. It is that it is difficult, especially if someone's sitting at the seat right next to the door. There are going to be short periods of time where someone's going to have to come in closer proximity, but we also are requiring passengers to wear face coverings right now too, and that'll help. That's shown to help. CDC has advised that will help, slow the spread. So that is another aspect that, for those short periods of time, can hopefully reduce the spread of any infection.
Sam, Jasmine, question. I hate to open up a can of worms, but there are those people who are not wearing masks. I presume my understanding is this is a requirement, but what happens if somebody gets on without a mask?
That is a good question. We are requiring, we're asking customers to wear their mask, to wear face coverings. We're actually trying to say face coverings because, it can be anything. It can be a scarf, it can be a bandana, it can be, a mask, it can be any sort of facial covering. But we recognize that some people don't have them, or they don't have access to them. There's also cases where people may not be able to wear them. For example, if they have asthma or respiratory issues, that just compounds any breathing issues or that they might
Not
have.
able to physically put it on or take it off.
Exactly. That's another good comment.
And if I could say something once you're done, Jasmine or Sam, whoever was just speaking.
It was Robin.
Sorry, Robin.
No, that's okay. So we're asking. We can't enforce it. We just don't have the resources or the staffing to enforce it. But we are really strongly encouraging folks to wear them if they're able to.
This is Heidi.
Okay, I have a question. Can I jump in here, Heidi, real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Two things. I too, Robin, want to thank you for being in the position that you're in right now, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I am currently the vice chair of Taac, and I know my team, all of us together, we're doing as much as we can do, given the current situation that we're in. However, when I was on the bus multiple times over the last, probably within the last 8 weeks, maybe, I would encounter some drivers that would not even wear their face coverings, and they also had very different viewpoints as to what was going on with the pandemic and COVID-19. However, I thought that was interesting. And then also, I want to know: have you been on that bus within the last probably 4 days? And do they still have the tag on the that goes over the aisle that says prayer is not required at this time? Because that's the moving plate that Heidi was referring to. And if that tag is still on there that says prayer is not required at this point, that's sending the very mixed message saying that yes, we are asking folks to pay if they have the ability to pay, but yet when I see a tag on the bus that says it's not required, then I'm told not to pay.
Let's see. I'll start with the drivers not wearing the masks. The drivers, they are, they are welcome and to wear masks if they want to. They've all been provided with a mask. There are part of it with the rear, with generally with most passengers going in on the rear.
Yes.
Rear, it helps reduce contact. And some buses do have the plexiglass kind of guard that's been installed, and we are working on continuing to install those. One of the other concerns too, especially if someone has, glasses or anything, sometimes the glasses, it could be a safety concern because if the steam, if you have glasses and wear the face mask, it has a tendency to steam up your glasses, and that could be a safety issue.
Yep.
So, so there's lots, and again, they may have a breathing or, chronic lung issue.
I know a number of disabled folks that can't do it because of the glasses issues. They just don't. So, I mean, I'm following you so far.
Yeah.
But I'm talking more so the driver. It's a driver personal preference. And I encountered more than one driver saying that they didn't believe in the seriousness of the pandemic, and they weren't going to wear that damn mask anyway, even if it became a requirement.
Sure.
And I said, okay, whatever. And then they're breathing all over me, leaning over me as they're walking in my wheelchair and stuff. But I mean, what do? You just let them do it.
And then as far as the fare tag, I'll have to check. I know we received some comments about that when they first went up. I don't know the current status of that, so I'll have to check and get back to the group on that.
Okay, and I did notice that they did refuse a couple of folks that asked to use the front lift. They because they were ambulatory and they didn't see them as deemed lift dependent. They demanded that they use the back door. It was only when I got the driver's attention, it says, if they say they need to use this lift, you need to let them use it. They're like, oh, sorry.
Yep. And we recognize that has happened, and we do encourage you to call and let us know that, because then that allows us to follow up with the driver and reinforce the requirements. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is David. I do want to encourage folks to remind their community also that when they have issues to feel free to reach out. And also after this meeting's over, please feel free. I think we'll all have Robin's contact information, but as these issues arise and as the environment evolves, I'm sure Robin will value our feedback. Did anybody else have any questions or comments for Robin before we move on?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Heidi. I'm doing a speaking engagement with and at the ARC and with one other person, and they asked these same questions we're talking about today. So how do I explain to them, because I have a picture of that sign and the bar to show them? Do I show that picture? Because you're talking, you have to go back and look and how that works or not, if they have to pay or not, because I don't know how to talk about this now, because you just made it more confusing. And then you changed the numbers of how many people can be on the bus. It depends on the size of the bus. Are you putting out new maps of the buses? Because you recently put out a list of that. the different sizes of how many people can be on this bus, and the trains and stuff like that. So I'm a little confused in how to teach, because they were asking really good questions, because I'm on the Taac committee, and I said I would go back and get those questions for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, I'm having a
Who are
little
you gonna
hard
give
time
that to?
understanding the rules.
Heidi, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut in. Daryl, you're not muted, buddy. Could I have you mute?
Sorry.
So I just wanted to explain, and I'm glad you're on the line too, because I have some questions about Metro Mobility too.
So I think for ARC is that if that's an event coming up, you're more than happy to ask Doug or others to join you. We'd be happy to help with that presentation. The other option I can do is I can type up some of these talking points and send them to you so that you would have them.
Yeah, we have to put it in our PowerPoint, because we were doing a PowerPoint and then we're going to share, because they were asking a lot of the same questions today that you're talking about.
Okay. So maybe Doug and I could, we can work, I think we
Email
actually
it
may have some of these, as we may even already have these PowerPoints developed, so we could maybe share that with you. So when is it?
This is Carrie Shelton. It's gonna be, what is it, the 7th or the?
It's the second Tuesday of this month, so it's coming
Yeah.
up.
Okay. Doug and I will talk
And
after
it's-
this meeting and get something to you.
Yes, please, and we need it by the end of the week, because we have to put our presentation finalized. And I'm glad we're having this talk, because the same thing you're talking about is the same thing we need to talk about, because they asked about Metro Mobility. So it goes on both ends. How does this work, and what can we use it for? Because the information that's going out by email is so confusing. So I just wanted to bring that up.
What's the issues or communications with about Metro Mobility, and maybe Allison or Andy can help
Okay,
too.
most of them, they have been, you can only use it for work, and I had to call up because I have doctor's appointments coming up, and I needed to know if I can still use it for that, and if I can still use it for grocery shopping, because I'm capable of doing it on my own and things like that, because after the riot, the new email came out from you guys saying that it's for essential stuff, if I'm saying that right, and work related. It didn't say I can use it for my doctor's appointment, which has to come up,
That's essential.
soon.
This is David. So Robin, can you stick around on this call until like 1:40 or 2 o'clock, or do you have to take off?
I can stay on the call.
Okay, so our last agenda item, we're going to be talking about Metro Mobility. I'd like to hold this till then, and maybe you and Andy can.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep. No,
so both sides are very clear.
Thank you very much. I know there has been a lot of changes, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this meeting is to make sure that folks are aware, and also for you all to be able to bring concerns and issues that you've seen bubble up.
Heidi in for David. I do have a couple updates on Metro Mobility too that I want to make sure that Robin hears about and Andy hears about, because we have heard reports in the media and we've heard reports on the ground. So when that does come up, make sure I get in there as well.
Perfect. I'll try to leave a lot of the last portion of the meeting for that. I do want to get on to Adam. I don't know if he has to run, but I want to make sure to give him some time to talk about Metro Transit website redesign. Adam, feel free to dive in here.
Sure, and hopefully folks had a chance to peruse the PowerPoint that I sent. I'll talk through this a little bit and then open for questions too. Ideally, this has been adapted a bit. I was hoping to come to this committee before we launched, but obviously things didn't allow for that, but here we are. The good news is I think some positive developments beyond the site itself have happened since then, so we can talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, as you may be aware, Metro Transit launched its redesign back in December of 2019, and it was the result of about a year's worth of work, and hopefully you've had a chance to check it out. If you're riding the service and using our tools, there's a good chance that you have. Just to kind of run through things, as we were working towards this redesign, we had some objectives. Three main objectives were to improve the customer experience, increase accessibility, and modernize the site. We want to make sure that we're delivering an experience that's up to the times. Our site was last redesigned now nearly 8 years ago. And by the time that we launched this, I guess maybe not quite that, but 6 years ago. But as you're probably aware, the way folks use the internet and the way things look and behave on the internet have changed quite a bit in a 6-year time period. And our site really hadn't adapted over that time. One sort of sub-objective, two, that sort of encompassed everything, was to make the site more adaptable and less static. We made minor tweaks over the years to the site, but they were kind of just tweaking the main, site that still remained largely the same. This site was designed to be a lot more modular and a lot more flexible. So as customer needs change, as design standards change, as accessibility standards change, it should be much easier to make those changes proactively on the Metro Transit site now. As we were looking to prioritize the site users, we really wanted to focus on the folks who are using the site the most. That's not to say we didn't prioritize everyone, having a good experience, but the most important riders that we want to focus on are the people using us the most. That would be the daily commuters, the people who use us for more than just commuting. They're going to the grocery store, they're going to doctor's appointments, they're visiting friends, they're using it as a primary transportation mode. We also wanted to make sure that first-time users were easily able to get riding easily without having to wade through a lot of junk to get there. Same with infrequent riders, folks who aren't daily riders, but they'll ride with us maybe a couple times a month to do various things when the need suits them. Our special event riders, so that'd be like folks taking the light rail to the Twins game, people going to the state fair, things like that. And then out-of-town visitors. We know a lot of people, when they come visit, their first experience in transportation after getting off the plane is taking the light rail or getting around town. They don't want to rent a car. They're going to use Metro Transit to get around too. Just to kind of run through the design, we really worked hard with an outside agency, as well as doing a lot of testing internally, and then of course looking at customer feedback over the years. What we did was first design some wireframes based on the previous research we've done. That included paper prototypes and digital prototypes that we built off of. We did design with a mindset towards accessibility, very different from the way we've done it in the past. A lot of the time it was, let's build something, let's design it how we want it to look from a visual perspective and how we want it to act in a visual perspective, and then how do we make sure that that works for accessibility. And really, we did those things hand in hand this time. We really wanted to make sure that we were looking at everything being built with accessibility first, rather than, okay, we built this thing that we like, how do we make it accessible? That just creates a worse experience for everybody, and we wanted to make sure we were avoiding that this time around. And then a lot of usability testing was done and continues. I'll talk about that a little bit in a bit here. And then, of course, development throughout the process was a lot of iteration, testing, looking at the site, seeing how it performed, and getting it to the site that we have today. And then, of course, like I said, being iterative beyond that. So we'll just talk about what's happened since we've launched. So as I noted, continual testing for all users has been happening. This goes through customers that we have engaged who like to test for us when we're testing new things. We're looking at feedback through social media, through customer relations, through avenues like this, of course. And then trying to engage our users and engage our customers and make sure that we're open to design changes. A big part of that with relation to accessibility is using very in-depth testing and issue mitigation with the Met Council's new website, accessibility testing, WECO. We did some testing early in the year on that since that was probably back, I want to say in January, and got a list of a number of issues that we saw. Obviously we did what we could when we launched, but things change, and when you get it out in the wild and you have other people testing it, things come up that you weren't able to anticipate. So we have a list of projects that came from that testing, accessibility testing, and are working through that list to improve based on that, and anticipate regular testing with that group WECO. Of course, again, daily monitoring for accessibility via our Site Improve website monitoring services. That's a tool that we have installed on our site that crawls the site on a daily basis and looks for issues. It flags issues that it knows would be accessibility issues. Obviously, it's the robot, so it doesn't know everything perfectly. It has some false positives, but also has some stuff that we need to assess. So it kind of alerts us to something, but then we generally have to bring it to a higher level to make sure we're getting it right. It doesn't solve the problem. It just says there is a problem. But we're working with that on a daily basis. And then, of course, ongoing learning and training for our web staff to maintain a high standard of accessibility, much higher than in the past, is something we're doing. Our current front-end developer, who was the lead on this project, has really dived in on accessibility standards and has been working really hard to make sure that he's up to speed so that everything he's doing, like I said, is built from the ground up with that in mind. Other than that, that's really all I have, unless there's specific questions.
This is Heidi. I'm using my tablet, so I'm actually at your site. It's a lot of this where I touch something and then it gives me a long list because I don't read well and process very well. So people who have processing issues because of their learning disability, are you going to try to, and I know it's hard to do because we're always trying to make it as simple as possible, or because I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Yeah, so we try to get away from lists entirely as much as we can. In most cases, there is a search option rather than pulling from a list. So on Trip Planner previously, if you wanted to find a landmark, like say you wanted to find the Mall of America, you had to go through a number of menus that said attractions, shopping, now Mall of America, and that was taking you through multiple menus and multiple lists. Now we got rid of those sort of drop downs entirely, and everything is autocomplete, just like if you're using Google or basically any other search engine. So you could type in your address, start typing in the number, it'll pull it up. It's not there is some list there, but we try to keep it short for sake of ease. And then of course Mall of America, if you just type in the words Mall of America, it will work for you. Similarly with bus route information, you're able to search for bus routes by number, or go directly to the bus that you want by number as well.
Have you built in a microphone? I know I'm asking a big question because it doesn't always understand my speech impairment, but have you built in a microphone? Because I don't see that anywhere. You're asking me to type things in that I would have to make sure that my friend or somebody would have the correct spelling or name, or I have to figure out how to grab it from somewhere on the internet. Do you know what I mean?
So the microphone feature would be a feature of the device, not the website. So that would be either through the browser or the phone that you're using, or through accessibility, whatever. If you're using a screen reader or something like that, I guess I wouldn't know the answer of the screen reader for sure, but that comes from your device that you're looking at, not the site itself.
So you don't have it built in to your website where I can push a microphone and then it will say it and then put it on the screen?
That's really not built into any website. That's built into the device that you'd be using to browse.
Just the browse. Okay. I was just wondering.
So like I have my phone up now. If you type in the button, it will give you the option to say location. You would name something and it will pull that up. But that's through the device, not through the website.
Okay. Are we going to think about that in the future for the people who can't type and the people who can't spell well?
Well, again, that's something that's already there on your device. So it's not something we can really do.
All right. I was just wondering. I did find by route, and you open it up. That's what, and then it gives you a long list of,
Sorry, which part was that?
It's it says by route, ROUTE, and then you can push it and it opens up and it gives you a long list of all the
Correct.
different
Yep.
routes.
That is a way you can access the site. If you click on the schedules and maps tab, or if you do the find schedules by route, if you type in your route that you know, like you type in the 23, that's my bus, it would take you right to that 23 page.
And I notice it does the same thing for buses too. I can see all, you know. So yeah, there's different ways you can do this. Okay, awesome. And I noticed when I first opened up the website, COVID-19 popped up if I want to learn more about it, and then I can push that off, and then you have it in pink too to just give us more what's up to date.
Sorry, one more time.
COVID-19, you know, when I first went to the website, it popped up with a big square and it says, you know, COVID-19, you know, and then I could push it if I want to read more, or I can exit out of that. And then it had it in the pink on the top.
Yep.
You know, just to give me more information if I want to further.
Correct.
So I thought that was very helpful.
Sure, great.
Are you going to update your videos on the line?
Which videos particularly?
And you have learning videos, and I was just wondering over time when things change, because you have one for when.
We try to keep our videos up to date. Obviously, right now, I would imagine a lot of them are out of date, aside from this COVID-specific stuff. That's why we created that content specifically for COVID-19 to make sure that it's up and running, you know, for the most up-to-date stuff.
Adam, this is Gerald Paulson. I have one question as it relates to the website. Do you have the ability to on the website or through the app somehow to rate the ability of the cleanliness of the bus and maybe report an issue if the bus is not clean or anything like that? Or maybe even rate the bus driver. Maybe the bus driver went well over the top and he was the best bus driver ever. Do you have the ability to ever be able to do any of that?
So the current way to do that best way to do that would be through the comment page on the bottom, the contact us link. You can give a commendation, a suggestion, or a complaint. We are looking into down the line having the mobile app have a rate your ride sort of feature, things like that. What that actually looks like is not clear yet. It's kind of a nice to have feature at some point, but it is something we've talked about, and a few other, you know, the best way to do that though is through the customer relations tool right now.
Report the bus is dirty. If I report the bus is dirty, where does that go and how and who's gonna see that report?
That would go to customer relations
does
too.
That mean the bus is gonna get pulled out of service until it gets cleaned, or how often does that report get checked?
So that would be something that would go into customer relations. I don't know exactly what the frequency is. I believe it's instant. That's not really website related, to be honest with you. That's more a bus operations question. I don't know the answer onto how buses get pulled out of service and things like that.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is Robin. If I can jump in really quick, with the website forms, they're during business hours, they'll probably be checked and responded to. But sometimes, you know, if they come in overnight, we'll check them and respond in the morning. So for the cleanliness or something, it might be better to call in. But they're cleaning. We've actually hired a significant number of new cleaners for both LRT and buses. So we've been cleaning them very regularly, especially with COVID, and doing even a more heightened cleaning because of that.
This is Heidi. I don't know who can answer this, but I'm on the alert. Do you only on the page put the most important ones? Because I ride a 68 in West St. Paul downtown and to the suburbs, and I'm always getting something, and the 75. Like, this stop is not, or we're cutting time from this time to this time, and it's not, and I don't know if you call it alert or what you call that. What's the difference between the one on your website for different bus routes?
So that the alerts page is a feed of all active alerts. So if there's an alert out there, it's on that page. You would be getting them sent to your phone or email if you've signed up for those alerts, which you can get to at the top of that page, the sign up for alerts.
So what I'm asking is because on here, I don't see any 68s or 75, because practically almost every day I get something
There are
through the week.
There are both there's alerts for both 68 and the 75 that I am seeing currently. So they're only if you don't see something on this page, it would mean that there are no active alerts. But there are alerts currently up for the 68 and for the Route 75. There's a button that says the number of alerts, and then you click on the Route 68 line, and it expands, and you can see the 2 alerts.
Before and after this, why can I ask this question, and either one of you can answer? This is Heidi. Why are certain buses getting way more alerts than other buses? Because the 68 and the 75 get a lot of them.
So once again, I'll just note that this isn't necessarily my area of expertise. The alerts are just displayed on the website, but they're all fed through transit information. But it all depends on if there are activities on the route. Some routes that say have more frequent travel through the city will probably have more alerts because there's more detours, there's more repairs, there's things like that. It really varies. But again, the stuff on the website really is just coming from a web service that feeds the site that's managed by transit information.
So if they put it in, then we'll see it on the website, right?
Correct. And if you've signed up for that alert, you'll get it for your phone too.
I do have to say that your people, when you call to make a ride arrangement, like I'm going to A to B, they highly recommend being on the email list, for rides and stuff. So they're doing a good job of telling us that. So I want to thank them for that, and I think it would be good to keep training each, every time you have a meeting, just mention that to your people, mention about you have these options so you can stay more alert, because we've used it in cases like we can't be on the buses, we can't do this, or there's a bad storm, or the buses aren't coming because of certain reasons, and it's been very helpful, even with the green line.
Sure. Great.
So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
This is David. Are there any more questions for Adam regarding website design from committee members?
This is Heidi. I have one more thing. How easy is it for touchability for the people who have finger problems or have to use special things to order to, maneuver their phones or tablets?
So I don't know the answer to that question. It's optimized for multiple screens, whether it's a laptop or desktop or a phone or a tablet. So the spacing is supposed to be at a point where it's easy to access. Again, I think some of that relies on the device itself. But we made sure that things were spaced out in a way that they were easy to access on either a touch screen or a regular non-touch like computer screen.
Yeah, it looks very cleaned up in my opinion, but I have friends who like to stab the daylights out of it because that's the only way they can do it, but they're very independent of getting where they need to go if it's done right. So thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Questions for Adam? Fantastic, Adam. Thank you very much for coming to chat with us about this and for the usability testing and looping in.
Yeah, happy to.
And focusing on accessibility. The website looks great.
Thank you.
I've been cruising over it while you've been talking.
Great.
Let's move on to Andy Strizik. We'll see if I made a mistake by shortening this meeting by 30 minutes. For some reason, I've made this mistake in the past a few times, and I always seem to regret it. So maybe I should stop assuming that we don't have lots of really great things to talk about. So I'll let Andy Strizik take it away. I'm sure we have lots of questions for you, Andy. So give us your spiel, and we'll ask away.
All right, Chair, members of the committee, I do have a lot to talk about here, so I am going to ask more stringently than I would typically do that questions wait until the end, just because we're running so late, and I do want to make sure I get through at least mentioning everything first.
In that regard, Andy, I would like to see your face. If you're gonna talk to me, can you show me your video so I can watch?
I'm sorry, no, I don't have access to it at this time.
Okay.
I apologize, but
because that's easier for me to follow through.
Gotcha.
Watch it.
So there's 3 sections here. One is kind of additional services. 2 is procedural changes. 3 is additional messaging. And I'll get started with the first section, which is additional services Metro Mobility is offering in response to COVID-19. And the numbers that I'll give you are bookings for each of these services as of Monday morning of this week. The first one that we did is Metro Mobility is doing grocery and essential goods delivery in an effort to cut down customers' need to go out. So if you need to go get groceries and you're capable of paying for those over the phone through an app, etc., you don't actually have to go. Metro Mobility will pick up your groceries and bring them to you, similar to store to door. And again, that's not just groceries. If you can talk Home Depot into taking a credit card order over the phone and bagging up your stuff, we will go in and get that stuff. If you can talk your local hardware store into doing that, our driver will run in and grab that stuff for you. So it is grocery and other essential items. An important caveat there is we're not allowed to pick up prescriptions. There's a variety of legal and procedural reasons for that. So that's one notable exclusion, but that doesn't mean we can't go to a drugstore. If you need some over-the-counter stuff, we can pick that up and deliver it to you. We're also doing what we're calling curbside service, because so many people are needing to just run in and grab something, or because banks are closed except for ATMs. It really did not make sense to have our rules in place about having one bus pick you up after another bus has dropped you off. So for those circumstances where you're just, quick picking up some food in a drive-through type of setting, or for carry out, or quick going to an ATM, you can book a curbside ride, and the same bus that brought you, even though it's going to be counted as 2 trips, will just wait for you while you do that, and then you can get back on that same bus and head back home. We've partnered with food shelves to do food shelf delivery. Oh, and I should back up. So far, again, as of Monday morning, we did 659 bookings for grocery and essential goods delivery. We've done 2,145 bookings for curbside. Food shelf thus far has been bigger than both of those. We've done 8,552 bookings for food shelf deliveries. And an important note there is that those are relationships that we've built right with the food shelf directly to deliver food shelf goods to their customers. So that's a service we're providing to people who may not even be Metro Mobility certified. If you're receiving food from a food shelf, the food shelf is connected with us. We can bring you your food, even if you're not METMO certified. Another one we're offering to people who may not necessarily be Metro Mobility certified is the healthcare worker transportation. As of Monday, there had been 20 1,167 healthcare worker bookings. Those are designed to bring folks to and from facilities where folks are being treated with the idea that, we can help drop that curve on the pandemic by getting folks to the facilities where people are seeking treatment. Important here to note that you don't need to be a doctor or a nurse. You just need to be working at a facility where somebody is receiving treatments. And we can bring you to and from that facility. Another new service that's come up in response to COVID is Aware. Aware is a service that was just recently started by our taxi provider to provide rides for folks who we can't transport safely because they're either symptomatic or we know that they've tested positive. Obviously, as public transit, it's a direct threat to transport somebody during a pandemic who is showing symptoms or who we know is positive. So we're not taking those folks on Metro Mobility buses. What we're doing instead is offering them this Aware service, which is similar to our premium same-day program, except that drivers have enhanced PPEs, enhanced cleaning on the vehicles, and barriers between the back and front seat so that they can maintain safety and social distancing. So there's that. And then finally, essential worker. That's a new one in the face of the Metro Transit stoppage that has taken place based on the social justice uprisings that have been going on. We've done 159 of those as of Monday morning. Obviously, many more now. We had done 16 Aware rides as of Monday morning because, again, it's brand new. Essential worker is similar to the healthcare worker thing, except it's open to any essential worker, not just somebody going back and forth, from a healthcare facility, but anybody who is an essential worker. So those are kind of the new programs or new kinds of rides that we're doing. Then we have some procedural changes I need to outline. We have similar PPE requirements for passengers and operators to what's happening now on fixed route, meaning that our operators are expected to wear face coverings, particularly during escort. If they can maintain social distancing requirements, they don't need to wear them while driving necessarily for safety reasons. But they are expected to do so whenever they can. The passengers, again, are required to wear masks or face coverings if they can. But if they can't, put them on or take them off independently. And if they can't because of a respiratory disability or condition, obviously there are exceptions made. Escorts and ID, there have been changes to both of those. If a person is stable on their feet or if a person can self-propel, we're allowing drivers to see them inside while maintaining the CDC recommended 6 feet of social distancing. Similarly, for ID checks, we've become much more lax and are allowing that 6 feet of social distance. So if you show your ID, there's not going to be a lot of scrutiny there. They're going to check it out from 6 feet and call it good. Fare charging, again, similar to what's happening on fixed route. If someone can independently tag, we're asking that they continue to do that. However, if they need any help with tagging, or if they're trying to pay cash, we are not collecting that fare in order to maintain the distancing. And we're not going to go back, obviously, and collect anything after the fact. We have ceased no-show suspensions temporarily during the COVID situation. With everything going on and everything up in the air, it didn't seem appropriate to be moving forward as if nothing had changed with no-show suspensions. And we're doing our best to minimize the shared ride aspect of the service. So far, we've been pretty successful in just straight up doing one-seat rides for everybody. In terms of our certified customers, it's looking at more like two people with healthcare workers in particular. But for Metro Mobility customers, so far we've been doing pretty well with just one person on the bus at a time, which is ideal. But in any case, we want to maintain that 6 feet from the driver and from any other passengers. So whatever we can do to minimize the shared ride aspect, we're doing it in order to keep that distancing in place. We are continuing to run with essential trips messaging. To speak to the point Heidi raised earlier, certainly doctor's appointments would rise to the level of essential trips. Work obviously for people who are still working out in the community is going to be an essential trip. And quite frankly, we're not policing what is and isn't an essential trip. We're relying on customers to do that. Somebody's loved one is on their deathbed and they're going to see their loved one. That sounds pretty essential to me, even though it just looks like it's, going to somebody's house. So, essential is in the eye of the beholder here. And while we're asking people to, in the interest of safety to everyone, limit your trips to essential trips, we are not enforcing anything because we obviously don't have the specific case-by-case knowledge that would be necessary to do so. The front seats are all off limits on Metro Mobility vehicles at this point. I believe their signage is in place indicating such. And that, again, is to maintain distancing between customer and driver. We've got a very beefed up cleaning regimen where after each trip, the drivers are spraying and wiping down all the surfaces on the bus with the high-level disinfectant. And then they're doing the full-on deep clean of each bus every day for the deep chemical clean at base. And no new replacement IDs are being issued because our offices are closed. So because we're not requiring fare payment, it can't be done. If your ID go-to card expires, you're not getting a new card currently. We're waiting on that. And tied to that, obviously, is your eligibility is also not expiring right now. We're not doing face-to-face assessments at this time. So we're not having people's eligibility expire. We are just kicking that out till post-crisis. It can be handled. If we get new applications, at this time, same deal. We're just getting them certified without an assessment short term, and then we'll come in after the fact and conduct assessments later on. All of our drivers have access at this point to free testing, including drivers that are not symptomatic, and they are allowed to use the council vehicles for drive-through testing. So that, that's been going well. MTS wide, I know we have had at least a couple drivers who were not symptomatic who had tested positive. So it's a nice resource to be in place. They're also doing temperature screening for all drivers, just to make sure that they are not symptomatic prior to the start of their shifts. So in terms of additional messaging, what I've got for you first and foremost here is just, to be totally clear that all those extra tertiary services that I was talking about before, they're all subject to operational capabilities. At this time, we are anticipating that they're going to continue through the summer. But that could change. You know, we are also expecting that our ridership is going to maintain roughly, you know, the same level that it's at, you know, through the summer, and we'll see. We are acutely aware that our primary responsibility is to do ADA paratransit, and that's what we're going to do. So as soon as any of these or all of these at all interfere with our ability to provide reliable ADA paratransit to certified customers, they're gone. You know, so I do just want to stress that. Right now, we're currently at about 20% of our ridership. So that, you know, that's why we can do these things. You know, Transit Link is providing transport for essential workers beyond healthcare workers. As of Monday morning, they had done 454 runs. And it's important to note that with Metro Transit buses starting back up today, today is the last day that Metro Mobility is doing the non-healthcare worker essential ride. So those will fall back on Transit Link. Or the fixed route system again after today. So far, Metro Mobility service hours have not been impacted by the COVID scheduling on fixed route. We don't anticipate them to be impacted either. So I think all of you know that, you know, our hours are based on fixed routes hours, but we've chosen not to follow suit with regard to curtailing hours in any communities. One last thing I wanted to add, because I know my staff got hit hard with it. The state commandeered several retired Metro Mobility buses for use in transporting folks during the response to the unrest. Again, those were retired buses and they weren't being operated by Metro Mobility, but unfortunately, they hadn't had the striping taken off of them yet. So I got to sit on the news and watch our buses carrying people, what looked like our buses carrying people away, but they are not Metro Mobility buses. They are former Metro Mobility buses that had been retired, not operated by us. And I think that that is all I've got for you. At this point, I'll open it up for questions.
This is David. Hold on just 1 second. Members, just want to put it out there. We have 7 minutes left on our scheduled meeting. I'm sure some people have to go at 2 o'clock, so I don't want to push this over too. If you think your question can be asked and answered offline with an email or a call into Andy or other Metro Mobility staff, please do that. Otherwise, I will open it up, and if it gets too hectic, we'll just move on to I'll call people's names one by one, and then they can ask questions. But go right ahead, say your name, and then ask your question.
Sam Jasmine. You knew it was coming, Andy. How many can I ask? So I have a question about ADA and non-ADA. How will this ride planning affect me being non-ADA? Like, how will I know if I get my ride if I need it? And how many can I pile on? Because I have several.
Well, let me take the first one first and then just go ahead, or I'll leave it up to the chair. But non-ADA paratransit rides are a higher priority for us than any of the tertiary programs that I ran through. So certainly, obviously, we have to prioritize the federal law with ADA paratransit rides. But really here locally, we consider paratransit to include the non-ADA service area. Your rides are a higher priority to us than any of those other grocery run, food shelf run, curbside run, whatever. Those are wonderful things to do while we can do them. But serving our customers, including in the non-ADA service area, is more important.
So you said there's two things. You said that if you need a quick pick up a quick curbside thing, that they would wait for you and it would be like 2 rides, then are you charged 2 rides? And if we can pay, how do you want us to pay?
Yeah, the only way to pay is to independently tap your go-to card on the bus, just like always. So if you're capable of doing that without driver assistance, that's the one way we are accepting payment. And yes, for those curbside rides, we would collect a fare on the go and the return. It's 2 different trips. The only difference is it's going to be on the same bus with the same driver, and the driver's going to wait for you.
And then if somebody was qualified for Metro, but they ran out before the COVID thing, how can they get back on, or do they have to wait?
Yeah, we've been handling that on a case by case basis. But anybody who applies formally, we're getting in right now. So if they go through the paperwork and get it into us, then they're getting extended. Anybody who expires during COVID, as I mentioned, is getting suspended. And then we've had a few people who expired right before our office closed. And for whatever reason, can't get to the doctor or aren't wanting to go outside to do so, but really want that safety net of a Metro Mobility certification. So we are too, just going in. If you weren't part of the stuff that was automatically done, if you just missed that, we're going in and extending that out manually.
I have one more.
Yep.
Can you talk anything about the lift contract that is supposed to start, maybe?
Well, I can say it's still going to happen. Our timelines are in total limbo, and I mean, I really got to shout out to my incredible freaking staff. The COVID's been hard for everybody, but we essentially fundamentally altered the core vision of our service in a week. And my staff,
Congratulations, Andy. You did a
took
great
on
job.
weekends. They did. They started working differently. They started working more, and they've just all done great. But unfortunately, I can't give you specifics on the lift timeline given the procurement stuff in place. It is going to happen. I can tell you that. I just don't know when yet.
Okay, if there's any time at the end, I'll use more, but go ahead.
Andy, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The one that Transit Link is doing for essential workers, they are essential workers. They're home care workers. They're PCA workers. Those numbers are, did you say 451 as of Monday?
Yeah, let me pull that up again for the TransLink rides. 454 as of Monday morning.
454. That's amazing. That's great. The other thing is, I want people to know that yes, now Amazon does accept in Minnesota EBT as a form of payment. So groceries or anything from Amazon can be picked up and be delivered via Metro Mobility Service through Amazon. When you can do your payment online, and they'll deliver it. So there you go.
Yeah, great point, Daryl. And I'm going to piggyback on that. Walmart locally is doing it too.
Yep, Walmart does it too. Sorry, I don't shop at Walmart, so I forgot to add them. But we worked the last 4 months to make that happen. Minnesota just luckily popped in there in the last couple weeks or so. So let's thank everybody for that.
Yep, awesome accomplishment.
This is Heidi. I just wanted to mention our self-advocacy group last month asked about Metro Mobility. So you answered our question, because I kind of knew, because one person had to hold off a funeral because they're going to do a wake, or some kind of funeral in the summertime, and she can only get there by Metro. So I said that has to be essential, but now you answered our question, so we could bring it back to the group. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
This this is David. Are there any more questions?
I have maybe one more.
Fire away, Sam. You'll
And then I have one too, really quickly. This is Heidi.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Mine is, are you, I know you have old buses and new buses, and so I've been on some of the older ones where in COVID-19, you shouldn't be using them because you can't sterilize because they have some rips or problems. Are you just using newer buses so we all stay safe?
We're using all of our vehicles still.
Well, you better
however,
go back and take a look at that.
Yeah. Well, hold on. But we have, again, beefed up all of our cleaning and repair stuff. So if there's anything that looked like it could hold germs, like a crack or a rip, like what you're describing, we're prioritizing getting that all cleaned up to make sure that a bus is safe to deploy.
So are you bandaging it or how are you fixing it? Because if I have to sit in the seat and I don't want it to come off,
Right. Yeah, I don't know specifically if that's all replacement or if there's some repair that can go on, but I know they are prioritizing getting stuff fixed up so that it can be cleaned safely.
Okay. Just wanted to ask that question because I've been on both sides of the newer and the older.
Sure.
Okay. And I was just curious I presume that the extending of any hours is going along with, you'll let us know when the lift contract happens that if there's any extending of hours in communities. And the other thing is, I presume you guys are also, because you get money for everybody's rides, that you're keeping track of them so that you still get the funds.
Well, are you talking about the federal COVID reimbursement, or are you talking about?
Not that, but you get money for us, right? When each person rides.
No. No, the only money that we really get per ride is the fares that we collect. We have been creative with how we are reimbursing our contractors because typically, how much they get paid from us has a lot to do with revenue hours and how many people they're transporting. So, in this situation, in addition to servicing the community and helping from a social distancing standpoint and from just a stewardship of the community standpoint, one of the nice things about these tertiary programs is that it has allowed our contractors to stay solvent, because it's fine and good to say you're going to prioritize ADA paratransit, but that doesn't do you much good if you don't have any contractors left in existence to provide your ADA paratransit when you get back on the bus. So, we're pleased that we've been able to keep folks pretty busy on the contractor side and also modify a bit how we reimburse, so that they can continue to exist and not go out of business during the crisis.
This is Heidi. I have one last question really quickly. When it's safe to go back to the old ways, or I don't know how you're going to do it. Are you going to tell them they still have to take us to the door correctly and do things? Because we already had made some serious complaints about them not following certain rules. And now COVID-19 came into play. Now it's all this distancing. When we can go back to the old ways of metro mobility, are you going to start making sure they follow those rules?
Yeah, we are piggybacking off of the CDC recommendations. So when it is safe, when the CDC gives you the green light to do away with the physical distancing part of things, we will run with that. I shouldn't say it like that. If there's some reason to raise the eyebrows, we would take another look. If, for example, something weird came out tomorrow that said, never mind, everything's fine, we'd probably be a little bit more cautious than that. But when there's good reason to believe that we've weathered the storm here and that it's safe to look at going back to stuff the way it used to be, we're absolutely going to prioritize escorts. And Heidi, I do want to stress, If somebody needs assistance, either because of inability to self-propel or instability or elopement risk or whatever, if you need an escort, we're still going to escort you the same as we always have. But it's just that if for folks who don't need that, we're going to maintain the distancing. But I do understand what you're saying, that just because that's what the rule is doesn't mean that that's necessarily always what happens.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'll bring that back to our self-advocacy group because they've been asking all these kinds of questions. Thank you.
You bet.
This is David. We are at 2:06. Is there any member of the public who wants to comment at this time? Awesome. Do we have any member? I'm going to skip my chair's report. Do we have any members who want to make a comment at this point?
David, did they know that they could come to this meeting? The member comments, the members, like outside community people, because I don't know how it was shared to the public.
It's streamed for the public.
Okay. Oh, streamed. Okay.
So they won't be able to comment.
No.
Any members?
This is Carrie Sheldon. I'm just wondering, when we were doing things the other way, the presenters had to give their documentation or their presentations to make it accessible for everyone to view. Is there any way that can happen here? Because I'm seeing on the top of my screen, there's, file, edit, share, view, audio, participate, all that stuff. Because I'd like to see what was talked about.
Carrie,
Carrie's Allison. I mailed you a paper copy of everything last Wednesday. I don't know if it got to you in time, but it was mailed last Wednesday.
I only got the agenda and the minutes. I didn't get anything else.
I mailed the PowerPoint too. Now, I sent it both. I sent it both via computer, and I also sent it paper.
Okay. Okay. All right. My bad.
So Carrie, the only materials that were provided for this meeting today was that the PowerPoint presentation about the website, and everybody received that in email. And there was we didn't share that PowerPoint on this call. That was just for people to look at before, and then Adam didn't refer directly to the PowerPoint. So there actually were no materials shared in this last hour and 40-minute meeting. Just conversation.
But everyone is aware that can happen, correct?
That materials can be shared during this meeting if we want to?
Yes.
Yes, and we'll cross that bridge if we need to later and make sure that we're doing it in a fully accessible way.
Okay. Thank you. That's for me.
David?
Yes.
A couple months ago, we canceled the July meeting.
Yes, there's no meeting in July because of July 4th and probably other reasons too.
Yeah.
So our next meeting will be in August, and it will probably be a WebEx meeting as well. I want to give option for Ken Rogers about the Blue Line, Chris Bates about the Green Line, or Daryl Paulson about Boulder Rush Line to talk about subcommittee reports. If not, then I will, we can sign off, but I want to at least give them an opportunity to give an update if they have one. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Yes,
Dave, one thing I didn't get, who, back in the beginning of the meeting, who approved the minutes?
You mean who motioned for the minute approval?
Yeah,
I think it was Ken who motioned for the minute approval.
okay, and Sam seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, and Sam seconded the agenda also.
Excuse me, if we look at the, Allison, if you look on the, this is Patsy. If you look on the chat, I'm not sure who was writing it, but Jeff moved approval, Sam second unanimously.
Right.
Yeah, I put those into the chat just for the record. So
Yep, and also the chat does go away after this call, so if you need to
Yep.
know that, please write it down.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, this is Jeff Danes. Just a procedural point on this that came up earlier in the meeting. Daryl brought it up. It's my understanding beyond the city council and the county board that the requirement for the open meeting law is to take a roll call for any vote because of the use of remote or virtual meetings. So I am assuming that this is considered a public meeting. So I think that falls under the legislative revisions made by the governor and the state legislature. So we should follow that, but you can check into that before the next meeting.
I'll check into that, and we can easily just go ahead and do a roll call next time. It's not that cumbersome. But I do appreciate that. Did anybody else have anything they want to say? Otherwise, we are going to sign off, and I appreciate such great participation. Actually, we had, I think, 13 TAC members.
Chair,
I have a quick question.
All right, Daryl, and then Heidi.
David,
Go ahead, sir.
Are we meeting after this, or are we gonna meet sometime before August?
No, we'll set the agenda for the August meeting later, not today.
Okay, I have a couple questions I'd like to talk with you in a few minutes. Are you able to take a call?
Just give me a call. Heidi, you get the last word.
My question was, I was a little confused because there was a lot of ways to enter into this meeting today. So I'm glad I picked the right one, but can you next time send it so more simple of what I need to punch or, or do next time? Because that was kind of confusing.
We'll simplify it for next time, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to be patient with our first electronic TAC meeting. So
yeah, because I was trying really hard to get in without screwing it up, because one time I needed a meeting code and then I tried it a different way and I got in. So thank God I could do it.
Well, I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad I think 13 of us are here. So thank you all very much.
David?
Yes.
Can I just say something? Hey, Heidi, if you can give me a call, this is Doug Cook. I want to talk to you more about that PowerPoint that you need.
Can you send, I don't even have your email or your phone number. Can you send it to me by email?
I could do that.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to adjourn. I think you all can handle this offline. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your week, everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye. Leave the room.